Hi everyone. Welcome. It's so nice to see so many of you. Welcome to the Exploring Legal Futures webinars. So my name is Maria, and I'm the Outreach, Participation and Communications Coordinator here at the Faculty of Law. So this is our second webinar in this series, and it's all about applying to Cambridge Law as a mature student. We're very lucky today because we're joined by all three of the mature colleges at Cambridge. So we've got Wolfson, St Edmunds, and Hughes Hall as well. Before I hand over to the experts, just a couple of housekeeping notices. So this webinar is recorded, and the Q&A session of the webinar will be towards the end. So at the end, we'll have quite a lot of time to answer questions. But however, please do put the questions you have throughout the session because it is a lot easier for you to remember them as people are talking about the different topics you want to ask about. Please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions, and we'll get to them to the end. At the beginning of the Q&A, we will start with pre-submitted questions, and then we will get to the live ones. So that should be everything from me, but I will disappear in the background. And as I said, I'm going to hand over to the experts. So thank you very much to all of them for joining us here today.
Hi everyone, I'm Carly. I'm from St Edmunds College. I'm the Admissions and Outreach Officer there. I'm joined today by my colleagues Molly Wilson-Smith, who's the Student Recruitment and Outreach Officer at Hughes Hall, and Caroline Banerjee, who's the Outreach and Student Recruitment Officer from Wolfson College. They'll both be talking to you in a short while. First off, we have just an outline of tonight's session. So first, we're going to explain the term mature student and talk about the mature colleges at Cambridge. We will talk to you about how to apply as a mature student, point you in the direction of useful resources to help with your application, and cover what it means to take a course as an affiliate student. We're going to be introducing some of our current students who will talk about what it is like to study law at Cambridge as a mature student. So Maria has already mentioned if you've got a question for the Q&A, pop that in the chat. That can be a question for one of us or for one of our student ambassadors as well. So a mature student is anyone who will be 21 or over on the 1st of October in the year that they start their course. So sometimes when people hear the word mature, they think it's going to be much older students, but it is anyone aged 21 or over. So mature students can apply for the standard Cambridge deadline in October, or there's an additional deadline in March just for mature students, which is March the 1st. So if you want to start law at Cambridge in October 2025, your next deadline is the 1st of March 2025. If you want to start in 2026, you can either put your application in time for that March deadline and apply for deferred entry, or you can apply in October 2025 for entry in October 2026, a year later. If you are applying for the affiliate course, we do recommend that you apply in October. Around 3% of the 10,000 undergraduates currently at Cambridge are mature students, and there are 3 mature colleges at Cambridge, which most of those 3% go to. I will talk about those briefly now. So Cambridge is a collegiate university, which means you will be a member of both a college and the university during your time here. A college is your home while you're at Cambridge. It's where you will live, eat and socialise. Colleges have facilities like libraries and gyms, and all 3 mature colleges have very similar facilities. So these 3 colleges are the mature ones, Wolfson, St Edmunds and Hughes Hall, and we only accept undergraduates that will be 21 or over when their course starts. The mature colleges provide you with a ready-made community where you'll be around students whose ages range from 21 right through to their 70s and who have come to university through a whole range of different and sometimes non-traditional routes. Mature colleges have years of experience working with mature students and know about the specific needs that you might have and the support that you will require. They are also some of the most international and diverse colleges in Cambridge. All 3 mature colleges are proud of their lack of hierarchy, whereby fellows and students mix together. So whichever college you attend, you can expect a welcoming, friendly ethos. To find out more about the individual colleges, you should explore our college websites. Each college has its own unique features, and all 3 are located in different parts of Cambridge. Our students will be given their opinions of their colleges at the end of the webinar, so you can ask them questions about that in the Q&A as well if you wish. So throughout this presentation, we will be discussing the affiliate and the standard courses for law. So there are some key differences between the two. You can apply to take the affiliate course if you already have an undergraduate degree. In this case, you complete the law course in 2 years rather than 3. There are no compulsory papers set by the university for students following the 2-year course. If you're interested in pursuing the degree solely out of academic interest, you are free to select from a really wide range of papers. If you are interested in obtaining a law degree because you intend to become a solicitor or a barrister, you would be well advised to take 7 foundation subjects. In this case, it leaves you fewer optional modules. The 7 foundation papers, very quickly, are tort law, constitutional law, contract law, land law, criminal law, equity, and EU law. So although your pattern of study will be different on the affiliate course, you will still attend lectures and supervisions alongside all the other law students, and you'll sit the same exams for each module as they do. Standard entry is where you complete the course in 3 years because you don't already hold a degree, and there are some compulsory papers in that course, particularly in the first year. So this slide is a brief overview of the admissions and applications process. This was discussed in last year's webinar, so we're just going to give you a really quick overview here in case you did miss that or in case you've forgotten. So first of all, when applying to university, it's really important to choose the right course for you. So hopefully you're all here because you're thinking of doing law. So that step's taken care of already. Next, when applying to Cambridge, you need to choose a college. So for the March application round, this does need to be one of the 3 mature colleges. If you are making an application in October, you can apply to any college in the university. In October, you also have the option to make an open application, which means that you're not particularly bothered which college you go to, and your application will be allocated to one at random. Usually, if you are a mature student and you make an open application, your application will come to a mature college. So if you've got really strong reasons for not wanting to study at a mature college, you are best to apply directly to one of the others. All applicants for law at Cambridge need to register for and take the LNAT, which is the admissions exam for law. And you need to register for that and take it before the UCAS deadline. So either before the 1st of March or before the October deadline, which is usually something like the 15th or 16th of October. Once you've done the LNAT and submitted your UCAS form in time for the deadline, you will be sent an additional form to complete called the My Cambridge application. That comes to your email address and it's all done online. Next, some colleges ask you to submit written work in support of your application. The college you've applied to will write to you with the details if that's required. And finally, if you're lucky enough to be shortlisted for interview, you can expect that to happen in December if you apply in the October round, or in March or early April if you've applied for the 1st of March deadline. Similarly, the decision about whether you've got a place or not can be expected in January if you made your application in October, or by April if you applied by the 1st of March. I'm going to pass over to Molly now, who's going to give a bit more detail about the application process for mature students.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Carly. So on this slide, we're going to do a brief overview of the March round. So just a reminder, as Carly said, the regular UCAS deadline is usually the 15th or 16th of December. So that means for anyone viewing this webinar who wanted to apply for 2025 entry, who is not a mature student, I'm very sorry, but that deadline has now passed. So yeah, the March round is a later deadline for mature students. At the moment, this deadline is the 1st of March, but this may change in future years, so please do keep an eye on the relevant websites. This deadline was designed especially for students who are on 1-year courses who may not be able to make a competitive application in October. It is important to note that if you are applying to other universities, the UCAS deadline was the 29th of January, so that has now passed. However, if you submitted your UCAS form with only 4 choices of universities, it is possible to use your 5th choice to now apply to Cambridge, and this can be done anytime between now and March. And it's also worth noting that you can't apply for the October and the March deadlines in the same year. So, for example, if you wanted to start in 2025, but you'd already applied and been rejected in the October round, you would not now be able to reapply for March. You would have to wait until applications opened for the 2026 cycle. And just to flag, affiliate applicants are encouraged to apply for the October deadline. So, what qualifications are we looking for? For standard law, most colleges are looking for A-star AA or an IB with grades kind of 41 to 42 at higher level. Sydney Sussex has slightly higher grades at A-star, A-star A or equivalent, and this equates to about 45 credits at distinction on access to HE courses. So on the UCAS tariff converter, 45 credits at distinction on access to HE course is roughly equivalent to A-star AA. We also accept a wide range of international equivalents to A-levels. So if your qualifications are not mentioned here and you have some questions about that, you can find all the details on the international entry requirements page of the undergraduate studies web page. We can also put a link to this in the Q&A or share it at a later date with the recording if that would be helpful for people. The requirements for affiliate law are, of course, different because you have already obtained a degree, and this degree needs to be a first-class undergraduate degree or international equivalent, or a distinction in an MPhil or master's qualification, or its international equivalent. To check out if your qualification meets these equivalents, if you're an international student and you studied at a university outside the UK, again, you can check on the website. This time I'd recommend looking at the postgraduate study website, as that has a great list of all the kind of different qualifications we accept and grade equivalencies. And again, we can share that link if that would be useful for people. So, the LNAT. As Carly said, if you are applying for law, you must take the LNAT test. You can register and book online. There is a registration fee, and this is slightly higher if you're outside the EU. The LNAT does not test your knowledge of the law or your intelligence. Rather, it is a test of verbal reasoning skills and your ability to analyze and interpret information. It is made up of multiple choice questions and essay questions. And there are practice tests available on the LNAT website. Please note, if you are applying for the March 1st deadline, you must sit the LNAT before March the 1st. Applications are considered incomplete without the LNAT results or without you having sat the LNAT. If you are applying in October, so you're applying for 2026 entry, so you apply in October 2025, you must register for the LNAT between the 1st of August and the 15th of September and take the LNAT between the 1st of September and the 15th of October. That's a lot of dates I just said at you, but don't worry, they're all available on the LNAT website. Please also note results cannot be carried forward from one academic year to the next. A final thing I wanted to flag about LNAT is one of the most commonly asked questions we get is what is a good LNAT score, or what is the minimum LNAT score? And unfortunately, there is not an answer to this question, as it varies year on year, depending on the strength of the cohort and their results. Every applicant who sits the LNAT is considered against a gathered field of applicants. So, personal statements. So please note, this is only for applicants who are applying in this upcoming March round in March 2025 for entry in October 2025. After this date, after this deadline, the UCAS form and personal reference system is changing. Instead, it will be a series of questions rather than a kind of blank free space form. For more information on this, please do attend the personal statement session tomorrow that Maria will be leading, same time, also on Zoom, and you'll be able to access the recordings if you can't go. and that should be able to give you some advice if you're going to apply in October 2025 or further on. So yeah, just to reiterate, this section is just for those applying for this upcoming March deadline. So, what makes a really great personal statement? We love to see that you've gone kind of above beyond your curriculum, that you've expanded your interests and explored your passions. And how do you show this? You can try the suggested reading and other preparation on university, department and faculty websites. There's also our own website that the University of Cambridge has created called HE Plus. And HE Plus is great, especially for law. If you go on their website and click on the law section, you have different examples of different types of law, so criminal, tort, off the top of my head. And from there, you have case studies, you have questions to work through relating to the case studies, you have kind of videos about them to challenge your thinking. So it's really great preparation for what studying law at Cambridge is like. If you do choose to include any extracurricular activities, please try to link it back to what you're interested in studying. It's great that like you're really into football or basketball or you play the flute, but that's not actually that relevant to studying law at Cambridge. We want to see your academic focus and your academic ability. We would also advise to be like yourself, avoid sweeping general statements, cliches, cheesy quotations that you don't really explain. It's about you and it's a chance to show off how great you are. So don't waste that with other people's words. Just to reiterate, the purpose of the personal statement is to show your academic ability and potential. So we recommend having a minimum of about 80% of your personal statement be academically focused. It's a very different kind of statement to other universities outside the UK, where maybe they want more of your life story, they want to see more of kind of what you would bring to the student body as a whole, they want to know more about your interests. Cambridge is incredibly academically focused. We don't need your life story unless it's relevant to your studies or your interest in the subject. Finally, admissions tutors at the mature colleges are happy to hear from you and well placed to advise on any academic preparation that you might need. So, UCAS reference. So, your UCAS application, as Carly said, you apply on UCAS to the university and your application will not be considered complete without a reference. Ideally, this reference should be written by someone who is genuinely able to comment on your academic potential and who's familiar with your recent activities. So preferably an academic, such as a teacher or a course tutor, but we do also accept references from employers, colleagues, professional acquaintances. If this is going to be the case and you choose to use one of these non-academic references, I really recommend reaching out to the college that you're applying for and asking them for some advice. Again, if you're struggling to identify someone who could be a UCAS reference, please do reach out to your chosen college. The references should include information about any significant challenges you have encountered if this is relevant to you. Many successful applicants have a history of underperformance or gaps in their education, and we will take these factors into account, but only if we know about them. And just to reiterate, your application cannot be submitted until your chosen referee has completed and added your reference to your application. So we recommend that it's someone reliable and someone that you have up-to-date contact details for, so you can check in with them. No disability of any sort, whether physical or mental, including mental health, will affect an application. Your application will not be looked down on or reconsidered in any way negatively if this kind of stuff is disclosed to us, but we don't know unless you tell us. So, final bit from me. What makes a strong application? So, what is the university looking for with mature learners? Sorry. All mature applicants are expected to produce evidence of high academic potential as well as recent study, and you should undertake some form of formal study, full-time or part-time, within 2 years before you intend to start university. Mature applicants tend to have a greater diversity of qualifications than younger applicants, but we still look for this academic potential and the ability to cope with end-of-course assessment by examination. The nature and demands of Cambridge courses and the requirement to produce an independent piece of work every week means that some form of academic preparation is required. So, perceptions of careers. Something that students and applicants are sometimes a bit worried about is how having a previous career could affect their application. And this is one of the things that tends to differentiate mature students from standard A students. It is likely that you will have worked or had a career at some point before applying to Cambridge. However, this means you have likely encountered the law in a different way or have already experienced the law in a different way. For example, maybe you worked in Tesco and from there developed an interest in consumer law. Maybe you were an admin in an HR department and became interested in employment law. There's so many different ways that laws and careers intersect. And these aid in your application in that they provide your unique experience and your unique perspective. Having previously had a non-law career or job does not disadvantage your application. One of the greatest strengths of mature applications is their life experience. And the final thing is we want to see passion and motivation. Show us how you know you want to study law. Is it through an interest developed in a previous career? Have you been reading books and journals on the subject? Have you been listening to an interesting podcast on law that sparked your kind of interest and motivation? Is it because you want to become a lawyer? Please give us specific examples, and this can be done in the personal statement, as I discussed earlier, or at interview if you're invited to interview. And just to reiterate, every application is looked at holistically and contextually against the gathered field of applicants. So I'm now going to pass over to Caroline, who's going to start talking a little bit about affiliate applications.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Molly. Yes, I'm just going to talk briefly about requirements and fees for affiliated applicants, and then talk through some resources and then hand over to the students so they can share some of their experiences of being a law student at a mature college. So what we are looking for affiliated applicants is some evidence of recent academic achievement. So as Molly said, within 2 years of the course start date. And this can include your previous university degree. But in some cases, we also accept relevant work experience instead of recent study. So maybe you've worked in a law firm. And this is for your own benefit, is to make sure that you're really well prepared for the pace and level of study at Cambridge. I'm not going to go into the entry requirements here because we've kind of mentioned them already, but affiliate applicants must sit the LNAT, the same for standard age applicants. I think if we could go on to the next slide and talk through some fees. Thank you. So tuition fees may be different to standard tuition fees. So the current fee for home students in 2025 to 2026 taking a second undergraduate degree is £12,876 per year. And then international tuition fees for 2025 entry for law will be £27,024 per year. As an affiliated applicant, you'll pay a college fee. This is basically an additional fee you pay each year to your college, and each college will have a different fee. And there's a document on the university website with all the different college fees listed. And these are upwards of about £10,000 per year. And essentially this will support your college in supporting you. So covering the costs of various educational support, domestic and pastoral services. Just the note here that the standard law course has the standard undergraduate fees, and only international students will pay the college fees, so international students and affiliated applicants. There is some funding available, but it is limited. So the Cambridge Trust is definitely something to have a look at as an affiliated applicant. Most of these awards are part cost. They offer a contribution towards the cost of studying at Cambridge, usually for international students. And individual colleges may have scholarships or awards available. So please have a look at college websites for more information, or again, reach out to us if you're worried and want us to point you to some additional resources. If we can move on to talk about academic resources here and kind of ways that we can support you as a mature applicant, because that's what we're all trying our best to do. And the first opportunity that is really exciting is our hybrid virtual and residential programme called Cambridge 21+. It's exclusively for UK students who will be 21 years or over when they start their courses, and who have not yet completed an undergraduate degree. Basically, the programme consists of a series of 4, hopefully really engaging webinars throughout April and May, and then a 2-night residential stay in Cambridge from the 9th to the 11th of July. And you can do just the virtual part, that's also fine. So throughout the programme, you'll learn about studying at Cambridge as a mature student, hopefully feel really confident that you'd be part of a really nice community here. And you'll receive individual advice from our admission staff, as well as support with academic skills, careers advice, and getting the chance to meet other prospective and current mature students. It's completely free, it's lots of fun, and you can apply via the QR code on the screen, or just search 21+, and you should find the application page there. In terms of resources to work through in your own time, the Cambridge Law Faculty YouTube channel has great lectures, application support resources and student profiles. Earlier, Molly talked about supercurricular engagement, and the application resource page, linked there on the BA Law Faculty page, has a really good list of resources. So there's linked blogs and podcasts and case papers and TV shows. And remember, we're not just looking for one form of media. Podcasts, TV shows, these can all be really great sources. And again, remember to be led by your own interests here, not what you think we would like to hear, because again, it's all about you. Something we often encourage mature students to do, especially if you're out of education currently, is to keep an ongoing log of critical thoughts about any sources you encounter, even ones you think, I really hate that source, I hate the way it's written, I think it's really biased. That could be perfect. But again, in this log, remember that the law is current. It reflects what's going on in the world right now, in your lives right now as well. So if you're listening to this and you're a mature student and maybe you're a bit worried about not having the resources that you think you might have if you were at a college or educational provider, don't worry about this. It can be as simple as finding a news article. So you could find a news article about immigration, and you could critically follow this up. So asking yourself, is the law involved and why? If it's not involved, should it be? What result is it achieving? Who's winning? Who's losing? Do you think the law should be changed? And again, this is stuff you can include in that blog. And you can also, as kind of Molly's touched on earlier, apply this critical thinking to issues you experience in your daily life. So when you're buying something from a shop, what is necessary to make this shopping possible? In terms of kind of resources for supporting this way of thinking, I really like the website Oxplore for helping with critical thinking. That's a good resource. You basically can click on a question and follow it through with different arguments, resources, fields of thought. So I had a little browse earlier And it's a really fun website. It's very good for developing those critical skills. And one question that I followed up was, would you pay everyone the same? And I think there are quite a few kind of law specific ones that might really, if you can follow your own interests, that might be a useful starting point for going off and finding some more resources. And finally, do attend more of the webinars in this brilliant Exploring Legal Futures series. There are lots of exciting webinars coming up, including sessions on career pathways and law interviews. So definitely do keep engaging with us in terms of this support that's available to you completely free of charge. So I think that kind of concludes the slideshow from us. But I would love to actually hear from our current mature student ambassadors. I'll let them introduce themselves. But yeah, Nethra, Daniel, Charlotte, if you could turn your cameras on, we'll have a little bit of a chat now. Amazing. Well, firstly, thank you so much for being here, for giving up your time. I think I would like to just come round to each of you, and to start us off, please could you just introduce yourself, tell me what year of study you're in, and it would be great to hear just a little bit about your experience of applying to study law. Why did you choose to study law? What made you pursue this route? So Nethra, if I could start with you.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm Nithra, and I am in my final year of studying the affiliated degree at Wolfson. And I remember back in school, I had no idea that I wanted to study law, or even like in Cambridge, and I'd never thought about it at all. And then during my first undergraduate degree, there was a module with a little bit of a law component in it. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so fascinating. So that led me to be here. But it was quite unexpected. So I think that's quite normal for a lot of us here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nethra. And you said that you there was something in your previous degree that you found really interesting and kind of directed you towards law. I guess, how did you then follow that up in terms of approaching the personal statements, approaching the interviews?
I think it was like what I thought was so fascinating about the law back then, before I even started studying it, was how connected it was to people's lives, and how it's almost like you're solving like almost like logical mathematical problems, but with people as components. So it's very like real, and how interrelated it is with like markets and other areas of human behavior. So I think that was really fascinating for me then, and that's what I had written about even in my personal statement. And while the interviews were very technical, I think somewhere that fascination you have with it really like comes through even while you're answering the very technical questions. So I think it probably just starts with like some sort of fascination with it, and even if it's not very technical, it's all right. It's just, yeah. I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think you're completely right. That curiosity and desire to follow things up, that does come through. If we could come to you next, Daniel, if you could just introduce yourself and tell me what brought you to studying law.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel. I'm in my first year of the affiliate course here at St Edmunds. I did a degree in history and politics, and before this at the University of Glasgow in Scotland. And I did a year in the United States as well. I was very lucky to go on an exchange there to North Carolina. And that was really when I'd always been a little bit between doing history and politics and law, but I would have done Scots law previously to that. I'm from Scotland, so it's a different jurisdiction, as I'm sure all of you will know. But when I went to the United States, I did a course on civil liberties in the American Constitution with a professor who talked very eloquently about some of the things that he'd done with the law. And for me, it was about having a vehicle to use some of the things I'd learned in my first degree through a career. And then I was applying to things through UCAS, for graduate schemes for law programs in both Scotland and here. It was a bit of a punt, didn't think I'd get anything for it. And then, yes, ended up here, and I've been here since October.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Daniel. And I think before I hear from Charlotte, I'd just like to ask you, again, Daniel, what have you most enjoyed about the law course at Cambridge, or maybe the mode of study? What's the thing that you really like about it or have taken away?
I think for me, it's probably the opportunities so far. I mean, I started during the pandemic in Glasgow in 2020. It was, tell you, a very different experience. My first and second year, I didn't have any lectures at all in person. We were capped at 50 people for a lecture, which was more than my cohort was. So, it's actually quite funny to be in with so many people in these big lecture halls, because I went straight to seminar-based teaching in third and fourth year. But I've met some incredible people. I asked a question to Lady Rose, the Supreme Court Justice, the other week, and she came to speak. We've had great, fantastic speakers in with Culls. I've loved the pace of the work. I think it's really interesting. It is tricky, no question about it, but I do find it incredibly fascinating, especially international law. I've got a fantastic professor for that. He presented evidence at the International Court of Justice this Christmas. He sent us the link to all of that, for example. So it's really just about the experience and the expertise that you'll get here. I think that's, for me, is the most important thing.
Brilliant, thank you. And you're right, being surrounded by so many people who have made such an impact in their field is very inspiring. Charlotte, if I could hear from you, please, could you just introduce yourself and tell me what brought you to studying law at Cambridge?
Hi, so I'm Charlotte, and I came as a mature student who has a family. So I'm a mother, I've got 3 children. And I started studying law after essentially a nasty breakup, and some things that were happening, I thought, surely this isn't the law, surely something isn't right, and started reading about it. Unfortunately, it was the law, but this got me reading more. I started looking at Open University and reading about it. Then I took an access course and applied to study law at university. I never expected to get into Cambridge. I kind of just threw that one in there for, an ego boost, I guess. But here I am studying law at Cambridge now.
Brilliant, thank you. And Charlotte, I was wondering because you said that you obviously had some reservations or maybe an idea of what a Cambridge student would be like. How has that been different from the reality? Like, do you have any top tips for maybe people sitting here today that feel like you did, where they just feel like there's no chance? Do you have any words of kind of reassurance or anything you wish you could go back and tell your previous self?
I think at the time I told myself the worst that can happen is they say no. And so I applied. But I think you hear Cambridge and Oxford and you think rich people, posh people, and that just wasn't where I came from or my personality. But now that I'm in Cambridge, there's such a diverse studentship and professors as well. I have friends from all over the world, especially Hughes Hall is very, very international, and people from so many diverse backgrounds that you realize that you're not that different. Everyone is very different. And it makes a really good sort of family feeling in the college because we all come together over these differences that the other colleges with the younger cohorts will not always have those experiences. And there are a lot of ways to make connections because we're a bit older. We know who we are, and like there are family groups and events to bring your children to, and all kinds of societies catered towards the mature students. And any interest you have, there is something there to communicate with other people over. So it makes you feel very welcome. And so I'm very happy I chose Cambridge, but it's very different than what I expected.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte. And I think that's really reassuring for people to know that there would be a community for them as a mature student, and actually that there are lots of really beneficial things about connecting in that way as a mature learner. And Nethra, if I could come back to you, do you have any tips for maybe people on this call for the application process, maybe the personal statement or the interviews? And also, how have you found the supervision system? That's something that's asked quite a lot.
I think, as Charlotte mentioned, the first tip would be just go for it. And it's very, very normal to have like doubts, be it because of the like cultural expectations one might have in Cambridge, or even because of the academics. So, but I'd say just go for it and make the application. With regard to the interview, I don't know if there's any specific way one can prepare for it. I think it's very important to just show that you're really, really passionate about the law and that you want to approach things in a logical and structured manner. So it's also like the process of thinking through things which matters and not just your final answer. And the supervision system, I think, is my favorite thing about Cambridge. It is a lot of work because you have to balance that with the submissions and also catching up on lectures and all of that. But what I like most about it is it's just like such a small group of people, 2 or 3 people with the supervisor, and often they really challenge the way you think about the law, think about the subjects, and they really like push you on things like how a law should be, or how it should be reformed, or even just the fundamental principles and basis behind it. So it's really helpful in not only like making you understand the law better, but also it changes the way you think about it, and actually it just makes the subjects more fascinating. So it's a lot of work, but it's very exciting, I think, to have that very interactive and small size, and yeah.
Great, thank you, Nethra. And I think what you said about the interviews in terms of it being a lot about the process, that's a really great point, because it is about reasoning aloud, working through things aloud, and it's kind of more about, as we've said before, the way you think and how you get to that answer and how you can reason and confront new knowledge. Sorry, more about that than about your final answer. So that thing that you said about process is crucial there. Daniel, before we move on to some of the questions that people on this call have submitted, Daniel, could I just ask you how you chose your college and what the best thing is for you about being at a mature college?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. You'll definitely meet people. I met people here, one of my friends who said to me that they had no idea about the college system at all when they applied. They just picked one randomly. They didn't really know there was much of a difference between them, which, it makes me laugh, but they just weren't bothered about that. They just were interested in going to Cambridge. And I think the other thing that is true is everyone really does like their own college. There might be things about each one that are different. St Edmunds is not a big college. We're not St John's or Trinity. We don't have big Baroque style Renaissance buildings, but it's very friendly. You do walk around, and I bump into people all the time that I'm friends with, and you become very good friends with people. We've got a great college bar, for example, which is a great way to meet people. We've got lovely grounds that I can sit and play football on, or, I'm sure during the summertime when it's warmer, I can go and sit in our orchard, for example. I liked as well, I mean, I would consider myself a religious person. St Edmunds is the only Catholic college as well, for example. We've got Mass every Sunday in our chapel with our priest, for example. It's a nice community. That's something for me that's of interest. But St Edmunds is a very multi-faith, very international college as well. So I really honestly would say it's not something that you need to put absolute pressure on yourself to decide, is this the one for me? Because I think people do end up in a place with good people around them that makes them happy. And quite honestly, if you put into the university, you'll get out from it.
That's great advice. Thank you, Daniel. I think all of the mature colleges and all the colleges across Cambridge are really lovely for different reasons. And it might just be a case of thinking, would you like to be around other mature learners, or would you rather be around other standard age students? And that's a very personal thing. Maria, I think if I can hand over to you now to open it up to the other questions.
Absolutely. Thank you for that fantastic presentation to all of the 3 mature colleges. That was really, really useful. I actually found that really, really, really useful as well. So thank you very much for that. So we've got a couple of pre-submitted questions and a couple of live ones. So let's start with the pre-submitted and see how we go, basically. So really significant question. And I know you've sort of already touched on this, but I think it's significant to sort of, highlight it, say it on its own. will somebody's mature student status, so their application status as a mature applicant, will that impact their application in any way, either positively or negative, I guess?
Yeah, good question. I could jump in on this one. So the answer to that essentially is no, in the sense that as a mature student, you need to meet the same academic standards as school leavers. We assess you in the same way as standard aged applicants. We view all the pieces of your application holistically. But something to say here is that if you have, and I think this has been touched on before, but if you have had experiences, like Charlotte mentioned, that standard age students haven't had, and it could be experiences like Charlotte, it could be that you've come to Cambridge as a career in a non-profit organisation, or you've had a different life experiences that have informed your understanding of the law. Just remember that these can make for a really strong law application, so you don't need to hide away from these. Just make sure that you link those to your current thinking about your subject, your current interests within the legal field. And these experiences can serve as useful examples within a personal statement, for example, as long as you're asking questions and following those up. So again, that critical engagement. So hopefully that answers that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think, Molly, it was you, I think, that mentioned that one of the really positive things about applying as a mature applicant is that you do have all of these life experiences and you do stand out because you have been through so much, positively or negative, and you have seen the world with wider eyes, I guess. So it really is an advantage. It is that extra sort of plus. So yeah, fantastic. I guess this would be more so for the student, and I'm hoping I'm interpreting the question right. So the question is, are there a lot of optional modules available to study alongside law? So I don't know if that sort of means, are there any other subject modules you can do outside law? That's how I will interpret it, because we've got a couple of questions in the past, actually, and a couple of emails of people saying, I'm interested in other subjects. I want to do law, but I've also got an interest in history or German or whatever it might be. Is that possible when you're in Cambridge? Can you sort of I suppose, pursue those interests in any way, or is it just law? I guess whoever kind of feels a bit more confident to answer that.
I think you do have the opportunity to audit other courses, but you wouldn't gain a qualification from doing that. There are some options at Cambridge to study language alongside your degree, which I believe the university funds. Maybe someone else is better at answering that. I don't want to guarantee it. But I do know of other students who've taken a French qualification alongside their law qualification. But I do think law is very heavy subject. It's very intense. And when you get here, maybe you will decide that although you do have those interests, maybe they're better suited for the societies you join rather than study, because you are going to be very busy.
That sounds about right. And I think quite a lot of departments now have their own seminar series that are sort of open to everybody, and those are usually in the afternoonish, evening time. So it might be a little bit easier to attend that sort of thing rather than outright the teaching, which is in the morning and will very likely clash with your own teaching. So yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. And sort of staying on the same vibe, there's a question in the Q&A actually. Of the meeting that says question for Daniel, so specifically Daniel, throwing it at you. So somebody's trying to decide between applying for law outright or applying for history and then later law as an affiliate student, and they're basically saying, have you found any specific benefits or drawbacks of the history affiliate route? What's kind of what's your view on that?
Was just typing my question out in case we didn't get a chance to answer it, but yes, I wouldn't pontificate on it too long. I think the honest answer to that is both passion and funding is the real truth. I love my history and politics degree. I mean, if I could study history and politics for the rest of my life, I would, but I decided that I wanted to do a degree which I thought hopefully will give me a vocation. Being a solicitor or a lawyer is a skill which you can always have. The sad and honest truth that I find is, and for many of my friends who also graduated with humanities degrees, it is not an easy avenue to a job, especially in Scotland. At least from what I've found. I love it because I'm passionate about it, and I find that it does help to intersect give you a sort of understanding of commercial rationale behind why certain decisions are made. I mean, especially constitutional law, for example. But the honest also truth is that I could fund these 2 years and I can't fund any more. So it will be an extra cost for you to do that. If you do a history degree here and then PDGL, for example, for 1 year, maybe at the University of Law, or an affiliate degree at the University of Cambridge. So it just depends on what you've got available to you, to be perfectly honest, is the answer. But yes, I think it does help me. It helps me with the workload, another thing as well, because it's a step up, and it's helped me definitely in my writing. I think I write a pretty strong essay too. So all of those things are things that I would consider. But the choice is really just for your own benefit, I would say, is something you've got to decide yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, very good points there. Thank you for that sort of honest review. Very important thing about funding, actually. Do have a look at funding and whether you can get any funding if you are going into an affiliate course, because I think that is, it's quite significant. It can become quite a significant cost to you. So it's very much worth considering whether that sort of going into that sort of debt, I suppose, is worth it, depending on your future career plans. But yeah, very much thank you, Dangle. It was really useful. Going back to the sort of admissions team, so Caroline, Carly, and Molly, what skills or traits do you think distinguish an exceptional law student from a good one? So I suppose you've all heard the question before, how do I stand out as a law student? I feel like there's always that wording as well. And it is a really fair question. So do you think there's like 2 to 3 specific traits that you would highlight as really putting people in a sort of higher category, the exceptional category, or not?
So I've got some thoughts on this, and then Carly and Molly, you might have things to add. Ultimately, I'd say that admissions tutors are looking for a certain type of critical thinker rather than someone who has all the answers. As we've said, looking for someone with a genuine curiosity in the law and how it functions in society, in the real world. They're also looking for people who aren't just going to simply regurgitate information to fit a mark scheme, but who will be open to new ideas, following them through, seeing how they play out. This might mean really sticking to and defending your argument and logic at some point, for example, in your interview, but it also might be in that same interview, recognising counter arguments, explaining and talking through the changes to your view and the changes to your reasoning in light of new evidence, new information and new context. And really the best way to practice this, especially if you're a mature student who's been used to working quite independently recently, is just to practice talking through new material, new reasoning, and practice speaking aloud and kind of reasoning aloud. Reasoning's really important there. Other skills that are important, I think, for law has to be organisational skills, really developing and practicing developing your eye for detail. So you can really notice small things about sources and really follow those up critically. So yes, I think that ability to reason out loud, to engage critically, that kind of skill set is really fundamental. Molly or Carly, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you've provided a really comprehensive answer, and you've definitely mentioned all the qualities that came to my head first as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I think that was, pretty much exemplary answer. So thank you very much for that. We've got a question in the chat, and the person says, in the Q&A box, will somebody be disadvantaged in their application if they've graduated from their A-levels in 2022 and they've not done a HE course, but they've done other studies which are not formal qualifications? So I suppose this is quite specific here, but it does kind of touch on the general issue of entry requirements and entry requirements for mature students. And I know I get so many questions about this that I always say, ask the mature colleges. So I suppose if you can give some advice to people about, is my degree, are my studies eligible? What is the best thing to do if they're wondering that?
I can take this one if you like. So unfortunately for this one, it really is going to depend on your situation and what those qualifications are. As a general rule of thumb, we would accept anything that has some sort of certificate attached to it. So it could be that you've done some sort of professional qualification that's an accredited course and you have a certificate, and that's great. That would still count. If it's you kind of just studying on and off in your bedroom, then not so much, unfortunately. There's a whole raft of courses that we usually recommend to people who haven't sort of fulfilled that formal study within 2 years of applying thing. And they are courses from the Institute of Continuing Education at either Cambridge or Oxford. They do in-person courses, they do online courses, part-time, full-time. Have a look at those websites, see if there's something of interest to you, because they do all come, even the part-time online ones do come with a certificate and some credits at the end of it that you can use to show that you've been engaged with study formally. The other thing some people do is modules with the Open University. If you've already met the entry requirements, then there's no need to do a whole qualification with them, but they do sometimes offer modules as separate entities, which again, you can study just to show that you've kind of kept your toe in the water with a bit of formal study. If you want to contact the college admissions office of the college you're interested in and list the qualifications you've got, we will be able to look at those and tell you whether they're suitable to make an application or whether you would need to study some of the things that I've mentioned.
Fantastic. Yeah, can I just bang on? Please email the college that you're interested in applying to. Because I do feel really horrible every single time saying, I'm really sorry I can't help you. Because as a faculty, we're not involved in admissions in this way. So yes, absolutely, please, especially for sort of really specific circumstances like this, just email the college you're interested in applying to, and you're not bound to apply to that college as well. Because I feel like that might kind of scare people away. If I email an admissions team, does that bind you to applying there? Absolutely not. They're happy to just answer a query for the sake of it. Sorry, I'm adding you extra email burden now to all of the admissions people here. But yes, absolutely do get in touch with them. Okay, I think that's probably the last question because we're sort of running out of time as well. I think I might know the answer to this, but I think it's important that you all highlight it as well. And it is, does Cambridge accept transfer students? And if so, what are the requirements and selection criteria? So I suppose that's a bit more of a complicated answer. So I suppose it's somebody who is sort of doing a degree right now and they want to come to Cambridge. What would the process be for that?
I'm happy to take this one because I've answered a lot of emails about this lately. So transferring to Cambridge from another university, we normally do not consider applications from students enrolled on a degree course at another university. However, we will consider it if there are exceptional circumstances or if you want to change the subject you're studying. So if you were already studying law at another UK university, deciding you want to come to Cambridge, I'm afraid we would not accept that. However, if, for example, there was some kind of really exceptional circumstance, honestly, the one that comes to mind that we came across was somebody was studying in a country that then was taken over and there was a war, so they weren't able to keep studying, so that was totally fine. However, if you are going to transfer, if it is a course change, a subject change, you would need a strong letter of support from your course director or your personal tutor, for example, at that university. You will need a written letter of support sent to the college you're applying to. And you will be assessed in the same way as any other applicant. So you will have to submit an application through UCAS as well. And you would also have to sit the LNAT again. And another thing to flag is you would have to start the course from your first year. You are not able to transfer credits within, to Cambridge from another UK university or an international university. Again, if there's any kind of further details you'd like clarification on, please do reach out to one of the mature colleges.
Fantastic. All right, so I think this is pretty much where we can close off. I'm going to take you all in order. So thank you, Caroline, Charlotte, Daniel, Carly, Netra, and then we've got Molly as well. So thank you all so much. This was really, really useful. So many interesting questions and a lot of interesting information as well. The recording of this webinar will go up on the Faculty of Law YouTube channel as well, so you can watch it back. Hopefully you've noted down the contact emails of all of the mature colleges, but if you haven't, not to worry. You can either find them online or when the recording does go up on the YouTube as well. This series, the Exploring Legal Features webinar series, continues tomorrow with a personal statement webinar. So do go and register for that on the Faculty of Law website if you're interested in attending. And then we've got more webinars coming after this about the interview, being a solicitor and a barrister, internships, vacation schemes, all the interesting things you might want to hear about. So there's a lot going on. Do go and sign up. Go look at the outreach events that the mature colleges are having as well. Have a look at their websites, contact their admissions teams. And from all of us, I think I can say thank you so much for coming. We really enjoyed having you, and we wish you have a lovely rest of the week and a lovely rest of the evening as well. Bye.
Thank you.